welcome to the Gazette's first Facebook Live for high school football this season. It does not seem like the season has been here, but obviously it is upon us, and we are ready to go. And welcome to the season. We're getting underway. In fact, the journey to a state championship starts on Friday, and our special section comes out tomorrow. I know we've gotten a lot of questions on it because in the past we've done, really a week-long preview. Tomorrow in both the Gaston Gazette and the Shelby Star, you will have previews of all the teams in our area moving forward. And in this year, kind of an interesting year, Joe, because of the American Legion World Series in Shelby,
right.
Shelby and Freedom get a 2-day start on everybody else, and they start the season, and then the rest of the teams, minus a few teams that obviously have open dates in the first week of the season, begin on Friday.
Right.
And welcoming Joe Hughes. Joe's worked in Gaffney and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, first year for a football season. He came on board with the Gazette last March. Joe, I know you're excited about high school football, and I've been working on these previews same as I, and know a lot about these teams in this region, but you were a little bit south of the border seeing a lot of this stuff. So introduce yourself to Gazette Facebook Live viewers and tell us what your thoughts have been so far with Gazette football season.
Yeah, can't believe it's really here. Just ready to get rocking and rolling, and a lot of teams have been really getting right into it. We saw that with the Jamborees on Friday night, and a lot of others took to the road for practices and other things. So it's going to be exciting to see exactly how this season kind of transpires and turns about.
Interesting as we talk about it moving forward. We had preseason polls, and we let the coaches vote on what their views are of the season, and not too unexpected, but Kings Mountain, which went unbeaten to the Big South last year, expected to win again. Maybe a little bit of a surprise that people have such a high regard for Crest. A little bit of, I think it was like 1 point ahead of Hunter High. So I think a lot of people are maybe reading a little too much into that because, honest to goodness, and as you and I found out really since you came on board in March, and we've been talking about ever since, college football recruiters have scoured this area, and Kings Mountain, Crest, and Hunter Huss's programs are 3 programs they have looked at very closely. And when you talk to those guys, you're splitting hairs. I mean, Kings Mountain, because they've got so much back from a team that did win the championship, I would agree with the assessment that until they're beaten, I got to pick them as the preseason favorite. They would be my preseason favorite. I don't disagree with the coaches. But when you look at the Big South, it's Kings Mountain 1, Crest 2, Hunter Huss 3, Ashbrook 4, Burns 5, Stuart Kramer 6, Forest View 7, and North Gaston 8. And I did the North Gaston season preview. This to me indicates how strong the Big South is. They had the second best offensive production in the history of the school behind a team that went to the state championship, and they're picked to finish last in the 18 league.
Yeah.
So that tells you how deep and how talented and how strong this conference is. And, I think week to week, you're going to have dogfights every week. High-scoring games are possible there. Lots of potential Division I players on the rosters of these teams. So, fans, if you go watch a Big South 3A conference game or games involving these 8 teams, you've got a good chance of seeing a player that you will see on Saturdays down the road.
And that's something that you really notice when you talk to these coaches. They're just like, it's going to be a dogfight every single week.
Yep.
Especially, I've had the opportunity to talk to Kings Mountain, Crest, and Hunter Huss players and coaches, and they're just like, man, this is going to be a fun year. And of course, those 3 are the first 3 that really roll off your tongue, but you expect Ashbrook to be back. Burns has plenty of talent. Stuart Kramer has some talent as well, although they have some pieces that they have to reshuffle and get up to speed. Forest View, North Gaston also have pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a fun year, depending on who each other plays. They were within a few points of play here or there,
right,
in a lot of cases of some things happening and some things not happening. So it's going to be real close as has been the case in previous years.
And another league that we cover, Southern Piedmont 1A Conference. Mountain Island Charter, a little bit of a surprise to me that they're the preseason favorite, but maybe that speaks more to what Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy and Bessemer City, who tied for the championship a year ago, lost. I still expect strong seasons out of them, but that league ranks like this in the coaches' eyes: Mountain Island Charter 1, Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy 2, Union Academy 3, Bessemer City 4, Cherryville 5, Pine Lake Prep 6, Community School Davidson 7, Highland Tech 8. Highland Tech's an interesting situation in that they've got a coach who came over from Harding who defied all logic and all critics a year ago and went all the way to the state finals, won a state championship for the first time since the 50s. David DeLeo, really excited over there, but obviously he's got a big chore on his hands. But yeah, you look at that league, Mountain Island Charter's got some really talented front-end talent that's getting a lot of Division I looks. Thomas Jefferson Classical Academy lost a lot of players, but they do have their quarterback back, and people are excited about him. Union Academy, it's hard for us to get a feel for them because they don't play many crossover teams until they get into conference play.
Right.
Bessemer City, there's an interesting issue there with their quarterback transferring to Cherryville. Be interesting to see how that shakes down. Week 1 we'll get to see. But, Cherryville looks to have a better season. It's a fascinating conference and one of those that I think would be very competitive as well.
Yeah, and especially with the Bessemer City Cherryville dynamic.
Yes.
Whenever you take a quarterback from one side, especially when it goes over to your rival, it really changes the whole dynamic, not only of the rivalry, but of just team composition. Mm-hmm. And you just have to wonder exactly how losing him, who was a big part of their offensive scheme last year, how big a deal will that be for Bessemer City and their opportunities to potentially get a share of the conference again this year?
Another conference in our area, Southwestern 2A. The coaches see Shelby as displacing South Point last year, and maybe they did displace them because they beat them in the playoffs last year. South Point 2, East Rutherford 3, East Gaston 4, Chase 5, and RS Central 6. Again, the rich get richer. South Point and Shelby, when this league was constructed, we knew they would be going at it every year. They went at it twice last year.
Yep.
Could that happen again? Who knows? But obviously high hopes at both places and lots of potential college stars on both of those rosters. So, we're talking August 14 today, and people are already looking ahead to November for that last game of the season between those two teams. But obviously a lot of football to play between now and then. But I would be shocked if they're not unbeaten, at least in their conferences, before they play when they meet in November.
Certainly. And it mainly has to just do with, hey, tradition never graduates.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very cliche, but with those two, you know what you're getting. You know what you're getting with South Point. You're going to get the running attack and everything that comes with it. Hard-nosed football with Shelby. Talent just brims out of that place. So it would not surprise me at all if, hey, we're talking about them two in November and possibly well on down the line in the playoffs again.
Yep. Southport 2A, coaches say a repeat of last year. Maiden winning the title again, number 1. Lincoln 2, East Lincoln 3, Newton Conover 4, West Lincoln 5, a tie in 6 between Bandy's and North Lincoln, and Lake Norman Charter in 8th. As far as our coverage area goes, Lincoln, interesting situation. Jamal Littlejohn and his brother Cordell transferred back after playing in Roswell, Georgia a year ago. Jamal will probably be the featured player on this year's Lincoln team. East Lincoln, both you and I saw them at a scrimmage last week. Really impressive defense and some playmakers on offense. Sidney Dollar back on the football field after missing last season. North Lincoln, a brand new coach. Nick Basil, who's won a state championship up the road at Newton Conover, who's a team in this league. Mm-hmm. Interesting dynamic there. West Lincoln has an awful lot of returnees, have high hopes for their team. So the 4 Lincoln County teams hope that they've got enough to maybe one of them or two of them give maiden a run. But like the Big South and the Southern Piedmont conferences, I can see a 1 or 2 loss team winning that conference because I think it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, that conference has the ability to possibly be one of our most entertaining, at least. I'm not going to say best, but most entertaining, because you can see it swinging several ways. As we said, we saw East Lincoln, and their front 7 could be one of the best in the area. Mm-hmm. They can really take over games, but Lincoln Tim's always has talent. Maiden always has talent, and Newton Conover, they always have talent as well. So you're splitting hairs by picking exactly who's going to win that conference.
Well, and we've talked about it, how we got to go to scrimmages. A lot of these teams only got to have one scrimmage this year because lightning, rain has really affected the play. But hey, it's here, and let's talk about some of these games. I mean, obviously this kicks off tomorrow over in Shelby. Freedom plays at Shelby. That's a rivalry that, if you count the Morganton days, dates all the way back to 1926. Big game, but around here, and we've alluded to it already, Cherryville at Bessemer City, part 1 of a 2-game series, because in that league, obviously travel's an issue in 1A, and they've agreed now for, I believe, the 5th time since 2001 to meet twice in a football season.
Yeah, those familiarity breeds contempt, and
yes.
These two don't really like each other whatsoever, and Bessemer City basically got the better of them twice last year, especially that last one setting a school record as far as regular season wins.
Yeah.
So with everything and the subplots behind everything, it should be a fun ball game, and I know both sides are looking forward to that.
Bessemer, for the record, leads 33-31 with 2 ties. Series started in 1930. Crest at South Point. You know, you talk about strapping it on first week of the year. I go back as a kid who grew up in Boiling Springs. I'm going to tell you an interesting story. I was doing the research on it today. South Point won the first 6 games in this rivalry. The 6th game, and this will age me, but this will also tell you the difference in then and now. They played a 1973 playoff game at Crest. Now, South Point won the league, but because they played the regular season game at South Point, the playoff game came to Crest. You know what else was going on that Friday night? NC State's eventual national championship team did a red-white scrimmage at the Crest Gym a few hours before that game was played.
Wow.
So it's just fascinating, the kind of connection between those two programs. South Point leads this series 23-13. Crest does not have a losing record against very many teams, but South Point was one of those teams. South Point has now won 2 straight games in that rivalry. I'm sure Crest will be eager to avenge that, but it's a tall order. I'm picking South Point, but you're really splitting hairs in this game, and I look forward to it being an entertaining game.
As you said, it's splitting hairs with that game. I'm probably leaning Crest a little bit more just because of the fact that they have a little bit more returning talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where you have Landon Sanders and a few other studs on that side of the ball. But it's hard to even go against South Point even though you know exactly what is coming. It's hard to stop, and they've shown that over and over, regardless of who's plugging what holes. They get it done.
And then we're going to talk about a third game, and we're going to start wrapping this thing up. But East Gaston and North Gaston, the game you'll be going to, Joe, teams have played every year since 1972. East Gaston leads the series 27-19. They've won 5 straight. I was a little surprised at that looking up the stats. I went to the game last year, 34-31 East Gaston win. Both teams could have won that game. I look for it to be a very competitive, exciting game. It always is.
Yeah, and I just expect a lot of big plays both sides of the football. East Gaston, Coach Joyce is real excited about particularly his skill players, and he has several of them coming back. A lot of them very dynamic and able to do several things with the football. So it's going to be a tall order for both defenses to try to get some stops here and there, but whoever is able to make that last stop is probably going to be the one that wins the game.
Some other big games in the area. Stuart Kramer beat Lincoln 40-7 in the season opener last year. They go to Lincoln this year. It'll be an interesting matchup. Forest View at East Lincoln. Forest View has won 5 games of the previous 9 between East Lincoln, including 7-6 at home last year. Patton comes to Hunter Huss. They've only played once. Huss won big last year at Patton up near Morganton. Alexander Central's at Burns. This is a rivalry that dates to when it was Taylorsville High before they became Alexander Central. And Burns still has, trails that series 5-4. And then another one that you can probably talk a little bit about. The oldest rivalry, I believe, recorded in South Carolina. Clover and York have been playing since 1912. The records aren't available for what the series record is, but we do know that York has won 6 of the last 7 games. And after watching Clover last week at the Gaston County Jamboree, I'm sure they are eager to turn the tables on that.
Right, and Coach Lane is very excited to get back in this for his second year. He said last year it was basically, hey, we didn't even know what a pass set was. This year they look very comfortable, and they looked awesome last week against North Gaston in the Gaston County FCA Jamboree. And the only question is, who's going to start at quarterback?
Yeah, they use 4 or 5 guys.
They use 4 guys, and it doesn't matter because whoever that person's going to be under center is going to have a litany of receivers to throw to. And it's going to be a tall order regardless playing against York, which is their common rival, and they share a lot of the same talent. So It should be a fun game between them two.
And since you're the new guy this year, you can talk about the exciting things. Readers or computer users have got an opportunity to be involved in the process this year. Tell them about that, Joe.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of opportunities each week to be able to pick football games. You can get either online at GastonGazette.com or ShelbyStar.com and pick whichever games you would like to, the winners of those particular games, as well as later on after the games, I think around Monday.
Yeah, on Mondays.
Yeah, on Monday we're able to pick players of the week, standouts from particular games, maybe even write in one that you think had a big game that we might have overlooked. So plenty of opportunities for you to become involved in. The winner of those particular pick'em games will have an opportunity to pick with us the following week.
In fact, I think our computer guru Nick Dumont tells me that tomorrow at the Gaston Gazette Facebook, at 7 in the morning, you will have the opportunity to get online, create an account, and join the pick'ems. We're going to have 6 games each and every week. You know, it won't be every game. We got, you know, it's impossible to kind of get all that on there, but you have a chance to pick 6 games week to week. And like you say, the best picker of the week before, and obviously we may have to break some ties, but
Yes.
we'll be contacting you about getting you involved in the pick'em process the following week. And then I believe sometime on Monday, I would say probably around noon on Mondays, you will have the opportunity to get on our Facebook or our Gazette.com and have a chance to vote on the player of the week. We have 2 players of the week each week in both newspapers, and the viewers and readers and subscribers will get a chance to make one vote, and then we will pick another player each week. So we look forward to your interaction and participation in this year's awards, and look forward to continuing to do this. We're planning on doing this every Tuesday around 1:30 to 2 o'clock, Facebook Live. Enjoy high school football this season, because we certainly will.